All right, we are live. What's going on tonight, Dan?
Oh, not too much. It's got a lot of interesting news today. First of all, the Snyder Cut has been officially released to some people, some online critics and everything, and we got 3 more days to wait, unfortunately, for the small people like us. But
That's actually what I was wondering. I know we've been getting a lot of questions right there. So what are early reviews of the Snyder Cut looking like?
well, everyone is unanimous in the fact that it is considerably, significantly better than the Whedon cut, as a lot of people are starting to refer to the original Justice League. It's interesting because I actually read a few things, and we've talked about this before, and I think on the first Nerdgasm podcast. Um, it sets an interesting precedent because this whole thing didn't happen in a vacuum. A lot of people, have, kind of like you said, you talked about Star Wars, the sequel trilogy, and there's a lot of people that
Mhm.
have been, saying, they want something different, or it's not what they expected. They want something, new, or like you said, the J.J. Abrams cut for Rise of Skywalker. So the question is, like I said, this didn't happen in a vacuum. There are Snyder fans, but there weren't even just Snyder fans. There were just people that said, let's see what the original vision was, because the one that got studio interference was just not good. It was very unmemorable. It wasn't like the rest of the DCEU, and it makes you wonder what the future, especially if the reviews are continually going to be, as audience people continually pour in, what it's going to be like, because so far it is much better, and it's making me really excited because I was nervous that it was going to be so much hype and it was going to be very little substance, but apparently the 4 hours is worth it. It's very good. A lot of characters like Cyborg do get, and even Steppenwolf as a villain, get really fleshed out backstories.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed. I've watched a few different reviews. I'm trying to avoid spoilers because apparently there actually are some spoilers that people are saying to avoid and everything. So I was watching a couple reviews earlier, just kind of listening to them in the car, and that's kind of the takeaway I got from it was pretty much unanimous that everybody much preferred that to the one that we got in 2017. They said all the characters much more fleshed out. And what I was really excited about was not only the more backstory, but especially Cyborg's backstory. That he's not just going to have 15 minutes of screen time and that's it. Like he's actually going to be a legit part of the movie and going to be, really a huge part of what's going on.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't know if we're going to get a Cyborg movie anymore because of the whole, incident, because of the Justice League film. Ray Fisher is still, I think, pending a lawsuit with Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon about the whole thing, the way he was treated on set. I don't know if we're gonna get anything for a Cyborg. This might be the Cyborg origin film that we've kind of been waiting for years and years.
Right.
Um, and it makes sense why we haven't moved forward with anything, I think, because after Justice League, that was supposed to be, the Cyborg film was supposed to be one of the first films out, and we never got it. It kept getting pushed back year after year, and then we kind of found out, I think, Ray Fisher was not treated well on the set of Justice League. So, and a lot of the guys like um, Jason Momoa have come out and supported him and said, yeah, it was not well. He was not treated well. Um, so it's, I don't know. It's very interesting between that and kind of replacing Snyder halfway through after his whole incident. I'm glad this whole thing's happened. I'm hoping that it really is the film we are all waiting for. I think it's going to be. I really do. I'm really excited. A couple things I want to see. I want to see the Ben Affleck. I want to see Batfleck like we saw him in Batman v Superman. I want to see like they show him at one point smiling in the old Justice League movie, and it's just so weird. Anytime you see Batman smile, it's just not right. It's awkward, and he does
Mm-hmm.
it one time, and it's just like, what? I cringe every time I see it. Um, because we get this dark portrayal of him, and I get that he's redeemed himself a little bit after Batman v Superman, but I still want a grizzled dark Batman. I want a dark knight, and we got, like, I don't even know what the hell you call that from the first cut. So it does sound like we're gonna get that. So I don't know. It's very interesting. A lot of things I'm excited to see. I know a lot of people didn't like Wonder Woman 84. I'm actually one of the few people I really enjoyed the movie, so I'm excited to see Wonder Woman more in that. I'm really just excited to see all the characters back, and kind of feels like a new, fresh thing, even though it's old.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think especially after seeing the early reviews, I honestly I wish we were able to see it, but we're kind of below the standard of YouTubers that are allowed early access to it. So
For now.
yeah, for now. But no, I'm excited about it. And that was kind of the other big thing that a lot of people were talking about was, yeah, it was 4 hours long, but it didn't feel like 4 hours. Like it flew right by and it went really, really quick. And they said even in the slower parts where they are fleshing out characters and stuff like that, like the whole thing is still really interesting. Like it's still it's still a lot of fun, and you're engaged during the whole thing. Every movie kind of has those spots where the slower parts of it, they kind of lose your attention, just a little bit and everything. And that was kind of what everybody said in this one didn't happen. Basically you even though the outcome is going to be, and it's basically virtually the same outcome as what happened in the 2017 one, the way that they get to that outcome is different.
Yeah, and I think that's the Darkseid's not the main villain here. He's just teased. I think he's probably only going to have, if I had to guess, and I haven't seen anything about it yet too much, but if I had to guess, probably 10 minutes maybe in the entire film. But it's Steppenwolf's film, and I'm excited because people who want to see a really good bad character, villain, we didn't get that the first time around that well. And I think we're going to get a reasoning as to why he's taking over or trying to take over Earth. One of the things that I do think is interesting in the whole back side of this whole thing is, it came out, the final budget for the film was $70 million that Warner Brothers dished out for it, which is a lot of money. However, the interesting thing is, for a film that really didn't make them a lot of money in the first place, and I think they know they will or can. I think just the amount of people that signed in and signed up for HBO Max probably more than paid for it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, who is next? Who is the next? Because it's going to happen. Who is the next film to do this? What is the next film that has a director's cut that is? Because every film has a director's cut. Just most people are aware of this. Every film does have a director's cut that a studio hasn't touched. It's unedited, or it's at least it's got added scenes, and usually it's about 20 to 30% longer than a regular film, except for when we get a director's cut. Normally it's, maybe 2 or 3 scenes added, this and that. But it's interesting because they've done it twice now. You got the Ultimate Edition, which was Batman v Superman, which made the movie significantly better. And I already liked the original one. And now I'm excited because we see this 4-hour movie that was meant to be what the original thing was. Who knows? Did James Cameron have a director's edition of Titanic that was 3.5 hours long? Or
right.
Anything like, or for instance, did the original, did Empire Strikes Back, shirt I'm wearing right now, did that have a director's cut that had an extra 20 minutes of footage that was cut that we just didn't see the light of day?
Yeah, you can't make that movie more perfect though.
No, I would agree with you, but it does beg the question. So what is the next movie? Is it going to be an old one? And I think you're going to find, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Warner Brothers one too. I wouldn't be surprised because this is going to be so successful just from the hype alone. The hype alone of this is huge.
Right.
In a way, it was too big to fail because they had everything going for it. One, the original film was lackluster. People did not like it. And two, there was, this literally couldn't, and that's what a lot of people have said, a lot of people we've talked to, it can't get worse than what the original one was. So it was like, okay, Warner Brothers had a win-win here. Now what's another movie they could do? Say, okay, a Matrix sequel. What if the Wachowski? I mean, I know the Matrix sequel's coming out, but I mean, the original 3, the Matrix Revolutions and Matrix Reloaded, 2 movies, after the original, that were not that well received. Okay,
you said they kind of sucked.
Okay, but what if the Wachowski brothers were given a lot of freedom in the first film, as a lot of directors are, and then when it became this unexpected, monster box office thing, the studio stepped in. You've seen this over and over again. Studio stepped in and said, we want it done this way, and you have to do it within a year. Of course the movie's not going to be great, so okay, what if the Wachowski brothers have Matrix Reloaded as a what if they said, all right, here, instead of doing the sequel, I mean, this one's already have a sequel, but my point is, what if they're like, all right, here's $40 million,
Yeah.
take take footage you've already had and take things like that, and it's very interesting, and it makes you wonder what movie is going to be next.
I had originally thought it might be the Star Wars sequels, but with them announcing that Kathleen Kennedy is staying on, I don't see it happening just because I don't think she would give up that kind of creative control over it.
No.
I think she still wants final say of it and everything. And I don't know. Here's the thing: even if they redid The Rise of Skywalker, even if you have the JJ cut like it's rumored to be, how much better does that make that film? Because they had so many things that they had to tie in. They had so many things they had to cover up from the previous film that people didn't like. I mean, there were so many things that you had to do. I mean, you could make a 10-hour movie and it still may not be be good enough,
Yeah, you're right. And the funny thing is, we're going to be doing my next Good, Bad, and the Ugly is going to be for Knives Out. Completely different than anything else we've done. I'm a huge Rian Johnson fan with that movie. I think it's an amazing movie.
What could have been?
And here's
that is such a good movie.
And here's what I'm going to say, and I say this in the Good, Bad, and the Ugly. I have it in my script. Rian Johnson is good at, and the problem is he is, from what I hear, he's done in his other movies too. I haven't seen other movies of his, but he takes a genre like a whodunit and he turns it on its head. He wanted to take something like Star Wars and turn it on its head. The problem is we didn't want that. Now,
it's not the formula.
A whodunit has been done to death. So, of course, it was kind of fresh and exciting. And so when he did it, it was really cool. The problem is Star Wars, it's been, other than episode 7, it's been, 15 years. So we wanted the same thing.
Well, I think what he was trying to accomplish would have been fine if it wasn't part of the Skywalker saga. Like if it was its own separate movie.
Absolutely.
I think if he directed Solo and was trying to do stuff like that, people would have been fine with it. They wouldn't have cared. They'd have been like, whatever. It's not part of the original 9 or the original movies and then the prequels and the sequels. It's not part of the 9-movie Skywalker saga. They would have been fine with it. They'd have been like, okay, that's cool.
Absolutely.
And it is kind of interesting to have that discussion though, based around Star Wars, because technically George Lucas did re-release kind of a director's cut 20 years after the original came out when they did the special edition ones, so
right. And that was a case where a lot of the original fans did not like him. Now, you and I grew up on the special editions because that was our age group where we grew up. I was 5 when they came out and you were 9 or you were 7. So for us, that's how we saw the original trilogy, was through the lens of George Lucas's remastering and the crappy CGI in some spots and things like that. But here's the thing. That's a good point. He actually, in a way, was kind of the original one to do that. But the difference was it wasn't because it was a bad film. It was just he wanted it. He said, hey, look, I got more money now. I can do more and I can make it look nicer with the technology available. So it is interesting.
Right. So what do you think for Godzilla vs. Kong?
Unfortunately, I think this is going to be one of two things. So I'm really excited for it. I think it is either going to be I think either way, it's going to be a dumb popcorn flick. And when I say that, I don't mean that in a bad way, because I think movies that I really enjoy, like Jurassic World, I enjoyed that movie, but it's not Jurassic Park. It's not the original or even The Lost World for that matter, but it's a dumb popcorn flick where there's plenty of action. I can rewatch it over and over and turn my brain off. And that's what you get from a movie I think you're going to get like Godzilla vs. Kong. I hope to good Godzilla that it's not King of Monsters, because the problem with the King of the Monsters was you had about 40 minutes of awesomeness and the rest about an hour and 20 minutes of family drama that no one gives a shit about. I don't want to see that. I want to see Godzilla beat the living shit out of giant monsters. And when we got that, it was awesome. But when we did it, it was awful. And that's what I'm worried about with this film is you're going to get Kong and Godzilla fighting, but there's going to be a lot of times where they're not, because it's so expensive to, CGI all that in there. And when they are in there, they do look amazing. I mean, look at the trailers. The trailers look fantastic on those. So I think it's going to be, if I had to grade it, I think it's going to be a good movie. I think it's going to be a dumb popcorn movie, which is always, it's good. It's fun, but it's not going to be like, I don't think it's going to be like blowing our minds with its themes and its, what its message is or anything. I think it's going to be just
So speaking of, excuse me, Jurassic Park. Going back to the previous thing that we were just talking about, do you think that there's ever a chance that do they go back and I mean, it's pretty much the first one is universally loved by everybody. I mean, we all love the original Jurassic Park. And the Lost World, I still think is a great follow-up film. I know it's sometimes split a little bit with people, but I think it was a great follow-up film. Do you ever get something like that with like Jurassic Park 3, where they go back and I mean, it's been so long at this point that obviously you're not going to be able to reuse the same actors and right. Stuff like that. But or even more recently, like Jurassic World, even though it was, like you said, it was kind of a dumb popcorn flick, but it was a really good movie. I mean,
made a lot of money.
Well, the tough thing with that whole franchise is it's not like Star Wars or Marvel or something like that, where there is so many different universes and galaxies and stories that you can tell. Whereas Jurassic Park, I mean, there's only so many ways that the dinosaurs can get loose and start causing havoc and everything. And that's what I think made the first one so special, was it was so different. The CGI in it was amazing, especially for the time. And the story for it was just like you could actually believe like, how it could happen and everything. But people still really like Jurassic World. However, Fallen Kingdom was kind of okay. I think, do they go back and do something like that?
I think it'd be interesting. And here's the thing: I would vote for, if I had, and I know a lot of people would. I think some people would agree with me, and I think some people disagree. So I'm a huge Jurassic Park's my favorite movie of all time. I love Star Wars. I love Batman. But Jurassic Park, because it was my favorite kid as a kid. My favorite movie as a kid. My first movie I really remember going to theaters is going to see The Lost World. I was 5, and actually I think I was 4 still. And yeah, it would have been 4. And I remember going to see it in theaters. It's so incredibly hyped, and I loved it. Now, as I'm older now, I think it's a good film. However, it's so different from the novel. Now the original. Kyle knows this. I'm a huge Michael Crichton's my favorite author. I've read Jurassic Park 8 times, I believe now, all the way through. I've read The Lost World 3 times. Now, The Lost World is a long, very, very, very meandering book, but it's so different from the movie. I mean, the book for the Jurassic Park is different, quite a bit too, but like literally the plot is completely different for The Lost World, and it makes you wonder. And it's such a better book than it is movie. And it makes you wonder why they didn't follow that more exact to the T. I think it would have been a much more interesting book, or a much more interesting movie. It was much more, you still had the small group of scientists, and then you had another small group of scientists instead of the hunters versus gatherers kind of thing. But it was more of a, I don't know. It's interesting because you could almost make what I'm getting at is you could almost remake The Lost World as a standalone, kind of like Snyder Cut-esque thing, where technically it's a sequel to Jurassic Park, but it's not in the rest of the Jurassic Park continuity. And I think you have a lot of people, and myself included, would pay to watch it because, 1, out of curiosity, and 2, I think it'd be just really fun. And it'd be interesting if someone like Spielberg or even Joe Johnston, because he directed Jurassic Park 3, he wanted to do the sequel originally after reading Crichton's book. He wanted to do the sequel to that. And for some reason, David Koepp just threw the fucking book threw it in the waste bin when he wrote the sequel. I don't know what he was thinking, but that would be amazing. But
no, I agree. And I think, for Godzilla vs. Kong, excuse me, I definitely want to go back and watch what was it, 2013, 2014 Godzilla, whenever it came out. Yeah. And then I want to go through and watch Kong Skull Island and all that stuff, kind of, to prep for it and everything. But I agree. I think I've got my theories of what I think is going to happen at the end and everything. I think there will be obviously a big battle between the two of them. I don't think either one of them's going to win. I think they end up teaming up or, something like that, so that they can keep extending the franchise out and everything. But
I think
what I'm actually really excited about is your review that you have coming up about the 1998 Godzilla movie. We were talking about that earlier. I still love that movie. Maybe it's just the nostalgic part of it.
I just rewatched that a week and a half ago in preparation for the Good, Bad, and the Ugly episode coming out for that in a couple weeks. Yeah, that's gonna be. I think that's gonna be a fun one to do too. I think people watching this when they watch it, I think they're gonna really enjoy it. It's got some humor in it, but also it's very nostalgic for us. Again,
Yep.
I saw that when I was 5, and you saw that when you would have
7
been 8,
or
technically.
8, yeah, 8. I was gonna say
Yeah,
I would
it
have just
was in
turned
that
8.
springtime when it came out. So,
Yep.
but still, I mean, like it blew our little minds. I mean, and now watching it now, it's like, okay, the CGI sucks. Story's kind of like, man, it has nothing to do with the original Godzilla, but it's
Well, he
just a
doesn't even look
fun
like the
movie.
original Godzilla. He looks like a giant lizard.
No,
But
not even close. But it's just nostalgia takes over. I wouldn't even describe it as a dumb popcorn flick. It's honestly, I don't even know what I'd describe it as, but it's just nostalgia glasses, I guess. But yeah, that's gonna be a fun one to do. I'm really excited for that.
back during simpler times.
Yes. Yes, I had I had Godzilla. I still actually have them in my parents' house. I have tons and tons of the old 1998 Godzilla action figures, and yeah,
Yeah. So for anybody that watches this after that's wondering how big of a, I guess, really Jurassic Park fan and Godzilla fan that Dan is, Dan used to get Hess trucks every year for Christmas. My parents would get him Hess trucks, and he would always, the tires would always be gone from him. The rubber would always be off the tires because Dan would bite them because the T-Rex in Jurassic Park bites the the tire. So
he takes
and
the
rips
whole
it
little,
off.
little
So
explorer.
yeah, and then Dan would go through to the fake trees or fake plants that we had around the house, and he would sit there and try to eat the leaves off of them.
Yes, I was a Jurassic Park nut. I still am. It's one of those. It's one of those movies, just like Star Wars or like any Batman movie. I love it no matter what.
It's one of
Even
those movies, even though you've got it and you've seen it 100 times, if it's on TV,
you got to watch it.
that's what I'm watching. That's pretty much, yeah. If that comes on, if pretty much any of the Marvel movies come on, Star Wars or Harry Potter, that's probably what I'm watching.
Yep, exactly. Except for Thor: The Dark World, nobody wants to watch that, but people just ignore that.
Which one? Oh, Thor: Dark World.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a that was a watch it in the theater and then watch it once at home, and
yeah. They
and
got
then
my money, and that was good for
yeah,
them.
and then I'm good. I don't need to see anymore.
What we saw,
Luckily Ragnarok made up for all that.
yeah, what we saw, the little snippet we saw in Endgame. Spoiler alert! Not that anyone here has not seen Endgame, but what we saw from Thor: The Dark World and Endgame, about 5 minutes of it, that was all I needed to see. That was it.
Yeah, pretty
that
much.
was good.
That was Marvel's way of making up for that, saying we're sorry.
And that's the thing, like going back to what we were talking about earlier, though, it opens up so many possibilities. What if for Thor: The Dark World, now they know they wouldn't do this, but what if they, what if they dumped in another $70 million and re-enhanced it, or not that much? A movie like that, they could probably throw in 10 to 15 million and throw it on Disney Plus and say, hey, this is a extended, renewed edition where there's extended scenes. There's, think about it. A movie like that, that's probably 2 hours long, probably has 40 minutes of never before seen footage. If you took that,
Right.
put it in there,
Right.
got it composed, and then had the CGI put in, you're talking maybe 10 to 15 million. But you know how many people would tune in? How much cheaper that is than making a whole new Marvel movie? I mean, you're talking 20 million versus 200 million.
Right.
So it'd be interesting because you and I would watch it. We'd hop on and because you got to see what's different about it. You got to see what's new. I mean, good God, I liked Black Panther, but I don't think anyone can defend the CGI in that movie is awful. Absolutely awful. I don't know what they were thinking. I think the people doing it were drunk when they did it. The fight scene at the end is so bad. And I know a lot of people online have kind of ripped it apart for that. Give a movie that movie made you so much money, Disney. Throw in another 20 million, really enhance the CGI in some spots. Do it a favor because it made you a ton of money.
Yeah, do it for the fans.
Do it for the fans.
Yeah, you got 100 million people signed up for Disney Plus at this point, so you got the money. And you made, how much did Black Panther make at the box office? It was like 1.5 billion or something like that. So
yeah, it was a lot of money. So
yeah, you made your money on that.
So, looks like we got Derek here.
Oh, here we go. Hold on. Let's get it pulled up here. Absolutely.
We should do a collab. Something like if we can get this channel huge, Derek, we're gonna like fly out to Kansas City and we'll collab with you on a video just to
Hell yeah.
nerd out on something.
He wants to know what your voodoo collection looks like.
I've
I've got a pretty decent voodoo collection. Dan, I don't think uses voodoo.
I don't even know what voodoo is. What are you talking about?
You can buy and rent movies on there. It's a streaming service.
I've never heard of it. I don't even know. Like I'm like an 80. Derek, what you need to know about me is I'm like two people. I'm like half 85-year-old man and half like 7-year-old kid. So the 7-year-old me loves all the movies and the nerdy stuff, and then like the 85-year-old me like still loves VHS tapes and doesn't like technology. So like everything you see here, this is like the extent of my technology that I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Voodoo. I have a lot of. If you want to see, I wish I could turn my camera. Kyle knows I literally have hundreds and hundreds of DVDs behind this camera here in my in the studio. There's a lot.
That's how you know he's like an 80-year-old because he's got DVDs still.
Yeah, I don't even have Blu-rays.
He's one step above VHSs.
Honestly, if like a lot of my TVs and stuff, if I still had VHS players, I miss VHS.
Mm-hmm.
I know we got to sign off in a minute, but man, I miss.
I do too. I miss having to. Remember when you used to have to fight with it to get the film out of it if it got stuck in it?
Yeah, I remember my favorites like when you'd open up a Disney box one and they had that smell to it.
The vinyl smell. The only place that you can replicate that is Best Buy. If you walk into Best Buy, you get that same
exactly.
smell.
Best Buy store. Yep, and that's the only reason I enjoy. I mean, I shouldn't say the only reason, but it's very overwhelming nostalgia. I love it.
Yes. Oh yeah. Our copy that we had of The Empire Strikes Back. Remember that the spot when Luke gets to Dagobah and and the monster in the swamp, our old VHS copy had had like a lag to it or whatever because the film had gotten.
Yeah, it sounded like it went through a trash compactor.
All right. I think that's what we I think that's all we've got for right now. You got anything else, Dan?
No, that's it, guys. We'll be back on at Wednesday, 9:30. So we'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching and have a good night.
Have a great night, guys.